Top of the morning, Tiaties. My name is Cecil Jaradat, and I'm here with Team 54, including Tritum Adamski, John Hayes, Fisher Meadow, and Corey Rigney, to present to you all today A.T.A.R.I trebuchets for the attack of the towering armories reinforced interactively, otherwise known as ET for the Atari, coming soon to the Atari 2600. Um, the game itself is pretty simple. You're protecting the kingdom against the wicked Northern Empire. I will now hand it off to my teammates to further explain the game.
E.T. for the Atari is a simple game, but the levels and the uniqueness of building makes it a different game every time you play. Here's a quick walkthrough. Start on the title screen, check out the controls or the credits if you'd like, and then hop into the game. First, you select a level. Then, you go into the grid mode, where you get to build your structure to defend your player. Once you've done in the painting mode, you can go to connect stuff together to make your structure more sturdy and deal with gravity better. Then, you end up in the phase where the trebuchets start attacking. Shots will fling through the air, and as they hit, your castle will take damage, explode possibly, and tint more red as blocks take damage. Then, if you survive the timer, you'll clear the level, and if you don't, you'll fail. We'll see more of this in the demo in a moment.
E.T. for the Atari is a single-player game designed for casual players in a broad age range. Since it's a casual puzzle game, it should feature gameplay that's easy to learn and can be played in short periods of time. Because of this, we made the controls relatively simple so younger or less experienced players can learn them quickly. We also designed the levels so they take a little over a minute to play, so players that are normally busy can still make progress in their spare time. While we developed the game for PC, the final product would likely be for both PC and mobile in order to reach more players in the target audience.
Now, uh, the core mechanics of the game are pretty easy to grasp. You have your special orb that you need to protect, which is this eye orb right here, from these trebuchets, which can fire a wide variety of shots, including bombs, flame balls, ice balls, spiky balls, and regular balls. Depending on the type of shot the type of shots that you're going to be faced with, different wall types, different barrier types would be more appropriate. You have regular brick, you have glass, you have wood, you have stone. So obviously, the spiked ones would do a lot of damage on the glass. The bombs would do a lot of damage on the stone. The fire would do a lot of damage on the wood, and so on. Um, and you're also able to connect blocks to make total block structures. So let's say you wanted to make a little roof, right? You could place 5 blocks in a horizontal line, connect them up, and they're now considered one big wall. Um, and so, of course, using all these mechanics together, you're supposed to create structures that can help protect the special orb.
You have a limited amount of time to build, and when the time runs out, the trebuchet will start to fire at your orb. You must then survive the onslaught of trebuchet shots for 30 seconds, or more for the harder levels. If your orb runs out of its health, indicated by it turning red when it's close to being destroyed, you will lose. If you survive the 30 seconds, then you win and can go to the next level. The mechanics are strong and the game is fun, but some of our more subtle mechanics could have been brought out more towards the surface. For example, there's the previously mentioned mechanic of different blocks taking more or less damage from different types of shots, such as fire, dealing extra damage to wood but not as much damage to brick, as well as certain materials dealing extra damage to blocks that are sitting next to it. These mechanics are interesting and important to the gameplay, but they must be inferred based on how much damage the blocks take, which is shown using the same red tint as the player. Controls are easy to learn, but they aren't intuitive based off of anything other than the control screen. The aesthetics were fantastic. We had a beautiful art direction and a wonderful art team, really bringing the battle theme and the war between trebuchets and blocks to life. The narrative was definitely stronger than our last project, as it ties into a specific area in A.T.A.R., as well as multiple things within the A.T.A.R. world instead of how vague our last project was. However, due to it being a casual puzzle game, it was harder to explain in the gameplay itself. Unity generally was very great at bringing together our wonderful coding skills as a group. However, it did have some setbacks. Source control with scenes is very difficult, but we did know it going into this project, so we were able to avoid any actual issues. A major error was caused, though, because of a difference between the editor's test button and the actual build, which had different script execution orders, and this caused a lot of strife towards the end of the project when we couldn't figure out what our problem was.
The team had vast coding knowledge. This allowed us to create the game from the ground up using no outside code and only using pre-installed Unity assets. Our source control was also good, both in organization and problem resolution. Our skills in problem solving extended beyond merge conflicts, with the team being able to quickly solve problems when working together. Game design discussions went better this project due to the team members getting better at discussing game ideas with each other. Communication was a large downfall for the team. More than once, two team members would work on the same problem, effectively making the work that one put in over the course of 2 days useless. This relates to meeting togetherness. During meetings, members would spend long stretches of time muted, or members would need to be called by name in order to get their attention. Last, members would take too long to ask for help on a problem, which would lead to precious development time being lost. The game is definitely worth further development, but would need a lot of work. The game would need a much bigger scope and a more in-depth onboarding process to accommodate. The gameplay would have to be touched up visually to not look so game jammy. If we were to do the game over again, we would want to get an MVP sooner. While we did lose 2 weeks to misinterpreting the rubric, we still should have had a larger focus on a minimum viable product early in development. Without one, the game came together very late. The main advice we would give ourselves on this project would be to start sooner. We didn't truly manage to recover from starting 2 weeks late.
If we had more time to work on the game, we would start off by adding more levels and refining our current mechanics. We included 5 levels in our prototype, but casual games like this usually have much more than that. We wouldn't have quite as many levels as they do, but we would definitely make more if we kept working on the game. Something else we would add is more variety for the game's levels. During our playtest, something players mentioned was having more things in the environment for them to deal with, like walls or enemies. While these were outside the scope of the game for Project 2, we'd probably try adding them if we continued making the game. Moving forward, we plan to begin implementation very soon after starting the next project. We didn't start coding Project 2 until after finishing the design doc, and because of that we were behind for most of the project. We eventually finished the game and playtested it with several people, but we were behind schedule for the entire implementation process. For the next project, we're going to start building the game alongside our documentation, so we can have enough time to achieve everything we want to.
Welcome to ET for the Atari. Before we start, let's check out the controls. On the right, we've got the actual keyboard controls, while on the left, there's a bit more of the plot and why you're doing what you're doing. Now let's actually play the game. We've currently got 5 levels implemented, so let's play level 1. You can see the components and the material cost in the top left, a timer in the middle, and a mode on the top right. The modes are painting, connecting, and deleting, which I'll show off in a moment. You can also pause at any time up here with a resume, a restart, and a level select. Restart puts you all the way back at the start of the level, though, including building your structure, so be careful with that. To start off, I'll build a small structure out of wood, and I'll reinforce it with some stone. I don't have quite enough to finish the structure, but what I can do now is connect stuff to make it more sturdy. When I hit this play button, the trebuchet will start firing. I could also wait for the timer to run out, but since I finished early, I can start now. There's also a deleting mode if I need to get rid of any blocks, like this one. As you can see, the trebuchet fires, and the blocks take damage, slowly tinting a little more red over time. The goal of the game is to keep your player alive long enough for the timer at the top to run out and for you to win the level. If your player gets hit enough from trebuchet shots, you'll lose. I've built a pretty sturdy structure here, and it's only level 1, so it's looking like I'll win this level. Ta-da! And that's ET for the Atari.